Hello and welcome to All Lit Up with me, Gilly Fogg, head creative at Lighthouse Studios in Kilkenny, Ireland. This is the series which talks to creatives of all kinds, directors, cartoonists, producers and puppet makers about the spark that lights up their creative work. In today's episode, my guest is Brenda Chapman, best known as the Oscar-winning director of Brave and a key member of the creative teams behind many other animated feature films. The Little Mermaid, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, Beauty and the Beast. I could go on. I talked to Brenda when she visited Lighthouse Studios and we spoke about unexpected career-changing questions and how to find the heart of a story. Also her short film choice, The Beautiful and Meditative, The Man Who Planted Trees by Frédéric Back. It was such a pleasure to meet Brenda, and I hope you enjoy listening. So let's get all lit up. Brenda, it is so wonderful to have you here right in front of me, not on a Zoom call. It's a real treat.
Thank you. Thanks for asking.
And welcome to Kilkenny.
Thank you. I love it. It's beautiful here. It's amazing.
And you're in our Irish hub of animation, but really you have been in the hub of animation for a long time. You live in San Francisco now, but you were working in LA for a long, long time.
Yes, I started actually working in animation in 1985. I was doing some TV work for a company called DIC. But then when I graduated from California Institute of the Arts, CalArts, I started working at Disney in 1987. And then I was there, for almost 8 years. And then I helped to start DreamWorks and was from there from 95 until 94, 95. So long ago, I can't remember. Until, around 2003. And then I went up to Pixar, where that's why we moved up to the Bay Area.
You started as a story artist.
Mm-hmm.
What was it like? What was being a story artist like when you started? And have you seen the world change now?
When I started at Disney as a story artist, the scripts were sometimes complete, sometimes they'd have a whole script, but parts of it were just this, and this happens, and they don't give you much detail to work with. So they expected the story artist to do some of their own writing or bring something new to the table. If they read a scene and they felt like, oh, maybe this would be a better way to do it, we were free to do that. And so I feel very fortunate that I got to live through that stage of storyboarding. Like, for instance, the bandaging of the beast scene in Beauty and the Beast was just a little, the director said, well, she's run away, Beast has saved her, she comes back and bandages his wounds, and at the end of it, they're more connected. So I took that and ran with it and wrote and boarded that scene. So, but then there are other scenes that I took directly, like a song, you take everything you have and then you try to visualize what's going on through that. And then as time went by, the script started getting tighter, the budget started getting, they were watching the budget more. So after Lion King, I think they saw how much money they could make, and so they started really tightening the screws on how much leeway you had. They wanted to know and plan and control it more, which is odd to me because we were free to do this thing, but then, we can make money at that, so we're going to throw all of our business people at it to see and make it even better, and which is counterintuitive, I think so.
And was there a real shift in the studio after the success of The Lion King? Could you see?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I that's when I started thinking about moving on. And then when Jeffrey Katzenberg left Disney, got fired basically, he called me because we'd worked fairly closely together on The Lion King. I was head of story on that, which was my first time doing that. And so he got to know me and my voice, and I just felt, okay, it's good to maybe give a little competition in this one one horse show, that there just seemed to be room to give more artists more work and different types of stories and that kind of thing. So I left and went to DreamWorks to help him build that. I was a little dubious about the idea of doing a religious film. I'm not particularly religious myself, but it was a definite challenge, and I went over there to build the story department, and then somehow got roped into directing, and co-directing. Luckily, I don't think I could have done that by myself, with Simon Wells and Steve Hickner, who came from Amblimation, which was based in London. It was a wonderful opportunity to work with multiple nationalities of people.
I really noticed how you phrased that you got roped into animation, into directing. So it wasn't a burning ambition of yours to direct?
No. The most ambition I had really was when I'd asked after Beauty and the Beast, I said, I think I'm ready to head up a story team. And so when I went to DreamWorks, I just planned to build the story department and head the story department. But Jeffrey Katzenberg was having trouble convincing people to direct Prince of Egypt, because it's a story of Moses, it has religion, it was just a hotbed of, trouble ahead. And he'd even asked Kevin, my husband, to direct it. And Kevin said no, because he was doing something else at Disney. And so finally one day we were he came to ask me to do it, and I'm like, oh no, I'm here to help with story. I don't know effects, I don't know backgrounds, I don't know how to do those things. So, let me do what I do best. And I loved it. I had, and then one day I was in a meeting with the two producers, Penny Finkelman-Cox and Sandy Rabins, and Jeffrey. And he said, okay, Penny and Sandy, have you found a director yet? And they said, nope. Okay, Brenda, you're directing until I find someone else. And I was like, okay. So for 3 or 4 months, I was directing on my own. And while it was a very, very small crew, and many people I knew from Disney had come over. And I realized as I was trying to lead this group of people that everything needed to support the story. And that included the effects and the backgrounds. And once I understood that, then I was like, okay, so being a director is just the next step up of being a head of story. So where a head of story just focuses solely on the story so that the directors can focus on many other aspects of the film. But it was a natural transition, and I really enjoyed it. And I was so fortunate to be able to work with Simon and Steve, who came on about 4 months after I was directing. So,
Brenda, you were really inspiring as one of the first female directors. I remember when you got the award for Brave, but I'm really puzzled by the story, because it sounds like if people hadn't begged you to do it, it wouldn't have occurred to you to be a director.
No, I just loved being a story artist and being in story. I felt, and I remember thinking when I was early on at Disney, it's like, okay, I've attained my dream job. I guess, do I just stay here? I don't know what's next, so, but the universe was saying, okay, this is what's next, shove.
Okay, so then writing Brave, it is really well documented that you were inspired by your relationship with your daughter. Yeah. Was that a kernel that you held and developed for years, or did it come out all at once, or how did you have this thought and suddenly, how did it get from a thought to a screenplay?
Well, I'd gone to Pixar. I was asked by the late, great Joe Ranft to go in and help him with the female characters on Cars. He was the head of story on that, and we'd worked at Disney, and he was a dear friend of mine. And I think I was there a bit late for that, so didn't quite make a dent in it. But they asked me if I had any ideas. They really, I think, were feeling that they needed to have the token woman in there, because I think they were getting a little grief because they had no women in these creative positions for story but also directing. They all their shows were male driven, but I was storyboarding on Cars, and we'd just moved up to the Bay Area. My daughter was about 4, going on 5, and I'd have to get up every morning and take her to school, to preschool, before I went to work, and everything. And it was just such a challenge. And she was unhappy with the move, and she was pushing back at every step of the way, and saying things that it's like, really, how old? This is what teenagers say. What are you going to be like as a teenager? And that is sort of what was going through my head as I would drive into work every day. And I finally realized I think I have to channel this somehow. And so, just, okay, what is it I love to do? I love fairy tales, and I have a fascination with Scotland, because it's a large part of my ancestry. And but then my daughter, it was like, what's she going to be like as a teenager? And that's how basically Merida came to be. And so this was my fantasy version of our, but I always joke with her. She goes, Mom, I would not. But I always joke, say, yes, but when she became a teenager, I said, if you'd turn me into a bear, you'd be telling your dad exactly where I was. Go get her. So she goes, oh, Mom.
And writing it, was that something you wrote like in your own time, sort of, you kept it in a drawer and then one day you went like this, or were you, I asked because you didn't seem to have that dream of being a director, and you didn't really vocalize it or go after it. So what was it like to have a story and a screenplay?
Well, I didn't have the screenplay before. I developed it at Pixar. And while I was finishing up on Cars, I started doing sketches. I started doing research on what I wanted it to feel like. And so, I discovered that Scotland was the place. I thought it would just be a generic Northern European, kingdom. But then I noticed that I was just so drawn to all the big ruined castle images, that were rough, and they weren't the little pointy towers of Disney princesses, and I wanted to throw everything on its ear. And so I was just drawing, but the heart of it was always the relationship between the mother and the daughter. And I went through many, many fairy tales reading, trying to find one that I could adapt, like they did at Disney, but trying to find one that Pixar could be happy doing, that would be not Disney. And couldn't find one about a mother and daughter that wasn't a evil stepmother, or the mother disappeared when the prince showed up, or it was always. So I just ended up making my own story, and other story artists, mostly men. Steve Purcell was one who I worked with on Cars, who was very curious as to what I was putting up on my boards and what I was saying. I pitched the story to him and a few others, and he especially just loved the heart of the story. And so he started drawing pictures and sliding them under my door, and drawing, and then others would do. So it was just this lovely gathering of artists starting to come around it, and I built my team that way. And I pitched the film to John Lasseter at lunch one day. He sprung, okay, pitch me your idea. And I'm like, I wasn't prepared, but I did. And normally at Pixar, if you're trying to put in a film that they might be interested in making, you have to pitch 3 different ideas. So I said, I haven't come up with the other 2 ideas yet. He says, you don't have to. This is it. So
that's wonderful. And again, in that image of someone sliding something under your door rather than you go and banging on someone else's door, it sort of came to you, that your team was attracted to you and the way you worked and wanted to be part of it.
Yes, it was really nice. Very nice in the beginning, yes.
And as an artist, as a writer, as a director, it's very important to you and fundamental to what you do that you're putting joy out into the world.
Yes. I'm a strong believer in finding the heart of the story so that people can connect to the characters, connect to that story, and give them, in that connection, someone to root for, to feel for, to follow through and be emotionally. I've always said, make the audience feel better when they're walking out of the theater than when they enter. And I get frustrated with films that make me feel horrible when I'm walking. I just like, why? What is the purpose of this? And I know there are many different reasons for that, but it's just not something that I can relate to. So it is important. It was important to me as a child when I went to the theaters, just to be lost in this world. I felt like Cinderella. I know it gets a lot of grief, but that character had resilience. And just going into that story, you open the book and the book comes to life. I felt like it was magic. And, it made me, feel so good. And I wanted to give that gift to other people, kids and adults alike. And that's always been my bigger goal in telling stories.
And now you and your husband, Kevin Lima, have your own production company.
We did. Yes, we do. We tried to start a full-on production company called Twas Entertainment, but then the pandemic hit, and we were working with Fox, and then they sold to Disney. So it seemed like everything was bad timing. So we have our own small thing. Kevin is actively working at developing projects, and I'm stepping back a little bit and prefer to work on my own personal work now, and am in mentoring.
Yeah. So that's great that you're coming over to Europe more and more, you find, or you're doing online.
I do a lot of
talks.
Online, and I do come over once in a while when I'm invited. I love to come over here. I do a lot of Zoom interviews and for different organizations who are trying to mentor younger people in the industry, and even professionals that they're trying to boost morale, that kind of thing. So I enjoy that aspect of trying to give back a little bit.
Oh, well, I mean, Brenda, I just think you've given so much with Brave. I mean, I must have watched it like 25 times. It's so, with my sisters as well. It's just such a wonderful film.
Thank you.
It's fabulous. And speaking of wonderful films, we always get our guests to choose a film to share with our listeners. And your film choice, Brenda, was just beautiful.
It's The Man Who Planted Trees by Frédéric Back. And I saw it back in 1987 when it came out, and it just really touched me. Just the beauty of the animation itself. I hadn't really at that time seen anything like it. But the story, again, what one person can do to change the world. Just one thing, this man who planted trees and changed an entire landscape and brought joy to so many people. It just sort of fed everything that I aspire, for. So it's such a beautiful,
so beautiful, and it's got.
Film.
If you're planning to watch it, listeners, it's a little longer than our average short film. It's half an hour, but it's so meditative. You've got this amazing narrative voice that's so rich and soothing. And it starts off that not a whole lot happens, and then suddenly the camera is moving in incredible ways it's hand-drawn. It's all hand-drawn, isn't it?
Yes, it took him so many years to make it, but it's just stunning. And you can see it in many different languages, depending on because it's in French, it's Canadian, but because it's mostly narrated, and it's not really lip sync, so they could do it in many different languages, and it's just beautiful.
And have any current animated features caught your eye? Are you a fan of any films that have come out in the last couple of years? Like, are you singing Soda Pop too?
I did enjoy that. I really loved Wild Robot. I think I really enjoyed Flow as well. There was something about they both had a very similar message about coming together in a community, of trying to just make things better. But then the fun of that K-pop thing, it's just so much fun.
Yeah, it's fabulous. Fabulous. Well, look, Brenda, thank you so much for talking to us. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for listening. And please do look in the episode info for a link to The Man Who Planted Trees. It is a very beautiful watch. And we look forward to having you with us on the next episode of All Lit Up. See you then.